everyone. Okay, we had a lot of questions about knives and what knives to buy. During class, I got a number of requests for that, so I thought I would just do a real quick knife class for you all. And so I'm just going to start with showing you what knives I have and do a little bit of chopping. So this is a classic chef's knife. This is probably the most important knife that you would want to have in your arsenal. And then I have a knife that's really popular. This is called a Santoku knife. It's from Japan. It's also known as a Japanese housewife's knife because the kitchens are so small and you got kids running around, so the end of the tip is rounded for safety. This is a great knife, and then it has these little divots in it here, and those little divots, I don't know if you can see that, create little air pockets. So if you've ever tried to slice a tomato and each piece of the tomato gets stuck to your knife and you have to pull it off, or onions, this helps with that, so that air gets in between and the tomato or whatever you're cutting will just keep falling off. So that's this knife. This is another chef's knife where it's got kind of a wavy pattern on it, and it's different metals that have been folded together like dough and then rolled out, and creates this nice wave, and it's just a very nice knife to use. And then of course there's little paring knives, bread knife, which is serrated, or a serrated knife, a boning knife, which is a very thin blade, and so this would just be if you, well, exactly what it says, if you want to bone a chicken and really get in there and get around the bones, this is what you would use. This would be used for butchering also. And then the last one, well, there's more, but there's, for example, with this is a slicing blade, and you can get them really long, short, and it's a very thin, flexible knife so that you can get around and carve and do really sort of pretty work with this kind of a guy. Also flaying fish, because if you flay fish, then you've got this nice thin knife to go around the bones. So there's two different kinds of knives. There's three different kinds of knives. The first one, this one is about 40 years old. It still has my maiden name on it. And this is carbon steel. So this is what the knives that you would originally get. Maybe you've got some really old knives. So this is carbon steel. Carbon steel is a very soft metal, so you can sharpen it and get it really, really sharp. And that's what's nice about it. The bad thing is if you use lemon juice, any kind of acid, and certain other things like onions, it will start to discolor, and that flavor and just the reaction from the metal can actually get onto the fruit, and so it turns black. So that's the problem with this. Then you have a stainless steel knife. I don't actually have a stainless steel knife, so we'll just pretend. When you buy inexpensive knives, a lot of time they are just stainless steel. I have one. I just remembered. Okay, these are from IKEA. These are probably $4 or $5. And so this is stainless steel. It's always clean. The problem with stainless steel, it's a very strong metal, and it just doesn't sharpen the same, and it's very hard to sharpen. So what you can get now are knives like these. It's a blend of both steels, known as an alloy, and so it has the softness of the carbon steel, so you can sharpen it easily, but it doesn't react like the carbon steel. So it will always, you can use it on anything. So this is the kind of knife that you really want to look for. The other thing you want to look for is that the metal, the tang, this is called the tang, comes all the way down to the base. A cheap knife like this, the metal stops right here, okay? So after a while, it gets loose, but also the weight of the knife is very important. So this handle is heavy because the metal comes all the way back, and that's really what you want. You want this base to be heavy, okay? And then this knife is not, doesn't have that heaviness, so it's awkward, okay? So that's what you want to look for. It should always have 3 rivets, the little things that keep it all together, like so. And the other thing, if you're going to invest in a knife, which I think is probably your #1 tool and the only thing that I really spend money on, is that you want it to be forged, meaning handmade, essentially. So rather than being stamped out of a sheet of metal like a cookie cutter, this knife is just as thin here as it is here. So there's no weight, there's no balance to it. It's more dangerous. Whereas this knife is thicker in the back and it comes down to a nice thin point. So it's got really nice weight to it. And it'll just last longer and the quality is much better. So how do you decide what knife to buy? You look for those things that I just mentioned, and then you have to hold it. You need to go to Sur La Table or to a knife store or something like that and ask if you can hold it. A lot of times places will have some carrots and a little cutting board so you can see how it feels. I have small hands. Some blades or some handles are just way too big for me, so it needs to be comfortable. What I like to do is there's always specials, and of course knife companies want you to buy their whole set, so I never buy a set. I buy one knife at a time. I use very few knives, but I wait for specials and then I go and I try it. Yeah, this is perfect, and that's what you want to do. So brands that you would find in, for example, in Sur La Table or Williams-Sonoma, some of the cookware stores, those are all good brands. You can find them other places, but you tend to get really good deals there if you can just hold out and wait and see what you can find. So I'll just do a few things. One is I will show you how I keep my knife sharp. So this is a steel, and this does not sharpen a knife. It keeps a sharp knife sharp. So you want a nice long steel. You can usually, if you buy like a knife set that's in a little knife block, this thing will be like this long. It's like a pretend toy, because who wants to sharpen a really big knife with just a little bit of space here? So you need lots of room, okay? You can do it this way, or you can do it towards you, whatever you're comfortable with. So what happens is when you're banging your knife around, it gets little curly wires, microscopic little pieces of metal that stick out. And what this does is it cleans those off. So I do it, you want to have, let's say you're trying to hold a quarter in between the steel and the knife. So that's about where you want the blade to be. And then you just go back and forth. And every time I cook, before I start cooking, I do this. And that's long enough. It just takes a minute to clean off the knife. You just want to have one person doing your knives, so you can do your knives, your husband can do your knives, your daughter can do your knives, because each of us will have a little bit different angle. So I just want to do my own knives. Nobody gets to sharpen them because it's always going to be the same. It's just habitual. Then about twice a year, maybe once a year if you don't cook a lot, take them to a professional knife sharpener. They're the only ones that if you get dings or maybe you drop something on your knife and it's got like a little wavy bend, you've got to take it to a knife sharpener. And what they'll do is they'll just re-grind it so that you've got this perfect edge, and then you use your sharpening steel. Okay, so that's that. The only time that I don't buy an expensive knife is with a serrated blade. This is made of stainless steel. You can never sharpen it because you'll just take off the serration, right? So you can buy an inexpensive serrated blade, stainless steel, and when it gets to the point where it's not slicing your sourdough bread anymore, then just throw it out and get a new one, okay? And so a couple tips now we're gonna do. Sophie might have to maybe move down to here. I'm just gonna show you how to use the knife, okay? So I've got a couple carrots. I just scrubbed these. They're from the farmer's market, so I didn't peel them. And so usually I keep my tip down, okay? I don't try and go like this because it's wobbly. It's much easier to have your tip down. So I put my tip down before I start. I keep my fingers curled back, always curled back like this. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, but I'll use this for my meatloaf. Okay, I take a little slice off so it's not wobbly. Keep my fingers curled. I feel like my knife needs a little sharpening actually. I'm gonna go like that. Give it a little wipe with the sharp blade away from me. And okay, so always have, as much as possible, have your blade down. That's my tip there, okay? Then we'll do 1 clove of garlic. I always cut off the root end. Okay, smash it, pop it out. Okay, and then again, I keep the tip of my knife down like that, and I can do nice slices. And then whatever I want to chop or mince into small pieces, now I put my fingers on the tip of the knife and go like this. Okay, so that is that. For something like celery, okay, I'm gonna add all this to my meatloaf. I would just put it in nice long strips. I can do another one. I want to dice everything for the meatloaf. Cut off the end. Get rid of that. Now my knife is still down. Okay, that will give you the protection and the balance that you need so that you don't hurt yourself. Okay, so it's very, very rare that I have my knife like this. And then I've got some parsley. And I've showed you how to do this in some of the classes, but just for showing you what I want the knife to look like. Okay, I got some ends there I don't want. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen the other videos. I roll it into a cigar, and then again, I keep the tip down, and I just go back and forth, like so. And this way, it's nice and stable. Okay, so I've got my vegetables ready for my meatloaf. So the last thing I want to say is that you never ever want to put your knives in the sink. A good knife needs to really be protected. You always want to keep them in some kind of a knife holder. It can even be a piece of paper, like a paper towel roll that you've cut little slits out, just so the knives are protected and not banging around in a drawer. If they're banging around in a drawer, they're going to be dull. And the dangerous thing about a knife is the dullness. So if it's sharp, it's much safer. I never put them in the dishwasher. I never put them in a sink. Don't drop them in a bowl of sudsy water. Somebody could put their hand in there, you just never know. But also, again, you don't want to be banging everything around. So I wash my knives after I've used them, just put them on the counter and let them dry and protect their sharpness. And so I think that's it. Henkel, Trident, let's see, what else do I have? Wusthof, another one, an alloy blend, and not a hand stamped one like this one I showed you. I take these to cooking classes where if I lose 2 or 3 of them, I don't care. Okay, so this is not really what you want. Any questions, contact me. If you find something on sale, post it on the Community Cuisine Facebook group, and you know, I can look at it and say, yeah, that looks really good. So anyway, that's it, okay? Go buy some knives.